Hey guys, welcome back to wemetatacme. I'm so excited to be here with Stefanos Sifandos, the dating teacher, our dating teacher of the day, actually, because I feel like it's funny, in the dating world, some people call themselves a dating teacher, some people call themselves a dating coach, some people call themselves a relationship coach. Like, I don't really even know what to call myself, but I think dating teacher, relationship teacher, I like that. So welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So I was just talking to Stefanos. Is it Stefanos or Stefanos? Correct me.
Stefanos.
Stefanos.
But call me Steph.
Steph. That's
Makes it easy.
you're just gonna be Steph, and it's gonna be perfect.
My friends call me, so call me Steph.
I love it. And not only is he Australian, but he's also Greek and Italian.
Correct. Yeah,
It's like
Greek, Mars, Italian.
that's a lot in the best way.
It's a lot in my head.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, in my body sometimes. There's some intensity there.
When is your birthday?
28th of February.
Oh, and you're a Pisces.
Yeah.
So there's so much in your head. It's crazy.
So much.
Happy belated birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
You're on the 28th?
28th.
Okay, I'm born the 28th of September. Are you into numerology at all?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert, but I definitely am fascinated by it. I have some understanding of it.
Well, 28 is a power number. So now you know.
Yeah.
Now you know.
It's good. Good to hear.
It's really good. So before we get into anything, we always start with the same question, which is, what is your favorite romantic gesture for someone to do for you?
Oh, for someone to do for me? That's a really good question. I've never been asked that. To just really listen with non-judgment and compassion when I'm in pain. That goes a very, very long way. Because when you say romantic, I also hear intimacy and closeness. And so that, to me, when I'm met with non-judgment and compassion, it's one of the reasons why I love my wife so deeply. And I guess one of the reasons why I'm attracted to her is because she meets me with that in times of real deep vulnerability. And that to me it's romantic.
I feel like that's what a lot of guys secretly want.
Yeah. We all want to be met. We want to be understood, accepted for as we are. We don't want to be rejected and humiliated. And so the antithesis of that is being met with non-judgment and curiosity and compassion, and like just being held as we are so we can be in our truth, so we don't have to hide and wear masks.
Yeah.
It goes a very long way.
I like that. Tell us about your wife. How did you guys meet?
We were introduced, so it's about 8 years ago, in 2018, we were introduced by mutual friends. She had known them for quite some time, but I was involved in a startup at the time, and they were involved, the husband and wife were involved in that. And she was at their house in Encinitas, looking at a screen that he was putting together. It was our website. And she noticed me, as a photo of me, and she said, "Oh, I know that guy." And they said, "No, I don't think you do. He's in Australia. I doubt you know him." I mean, she spent a lot of time in Australia with work and so forth, but she said, "I don't think so, but I'll do an intro. He's a really nice guy." That's what Renee said at the time. And my wife said, "Yes, but only if he's like relationship ready. He's actually looking for someone," because she was at a time in her life where that's what she wanted. And so Renee reached out to me. She was very direct. And they're great friends still today. Like Akira is one of my closest friends. And she said, "Hey, I've got this wonderful woman to introduce you to, but you're looking for a relationship. Where are you at?" And at that time, I'd been single for about 1.5 years, and I was in some quiet time, like a week before, and I actually started opening to being in a relationship. I said, "Yeah, I'm open." I mean, she lives there. I'm going to go to Europe anyway. And she happened to be in Europe at the same time 3 months later. So we just developed a relationship over WhatsApp, asking each other questions, getting to know each other, knowing that we would meet, want to touch and smell each other, and are we a fit in that way? And we did, and we basically moved together that day. And in that day, we've been together since, and we have a 4-year-old.
I love that. But at the same time, I'm like, that to me would feel like so much pressure if I told someone, "Yeah, I'm ready for a relationship," and then what if you had met her and it wasn't the same? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. We just had agreements. We were just very forthright with each other.
Right. You just would have been honest. And
we were honest from the beginning. We just, I guess we both were at a place in our lives where we just didn't want to waste time and fuck around, basically, and just say, "Hey, like, this is what I want. This is where I'm at. And let's be real for a moment. We can live in the fantasy of things, which so many of us do. We project those fantasies onto people and into the world. But let's actually get to feel each other. So there's something here. We admit that. We know that. We own that. let's actually meet and spend some time together. And we did. We met in Mykonos. She was on a couple's trip as a single with her friends, and she invited me. We're both going to be in Estonia, which is a very small country in Northern Europe. She was there for work and I was there for work separately. And so we met in Greece first, and it was just a really beautiful connection.
I love it. When's her birthday?
9th of September.
Oh, she's a Virgo.
Yeah.
You're opposites.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing. I love when opposite sign couples work out, and I feel like you hear it a lot with Virgo and Pisces.
Yeah, and there's some challenges though, of course.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, you you wouldn't be able to get along so well if you didn't have different characteristics that you both have to probably adapt to a little bit.
Oh yeah, there are preemptive agreements, proactive agreements that have to be discussed. There's really a seeking to understand each other's personalities, each other's history, each other's trauma, each other's unprocessed, unresolved stuff, each other's ways of seeing the world, our emotional bodies, and really a deeper commitment to really hearing each other and attuning to each other. But in order to do that, over the years, I've had to really learn to attune to myself, to not be reactive, to not be defensive. You know, I said earlier, it can be intense in my head. I'm a very passionate person, and I can be a very reactive. I have aggression that runs in me as a defensive posture, right? Based on my history, based on how I've grown up. And being with a person that's not like that, I've had to adapt because I choose to be respectful, but I also see how what she's pulling out of me or what she's asking for is pulling something really healthy out of me, like a healthier disposition to be with the world, to not be so defensive if someone says, hey, what you did hurt me. So to actually attune and stop and say, okay, tell me more. And that's been a challenge for me over the years.
Yeah. How old were the two of you when you met? I
was 36 and she was 40. That's about right, yeah. Yeah.
I love it. She's a cougar, as they say.
Yeah, a little bit.
And before that, had you been in serious relationships?
Yeah, most definitely. I not as long as this one though. This is going on 8 years nearly now. Well, over 8 years. But the most I'd been probably like 4.5 years. But yes, serious to me. The intention was serious. But I was also very immature in my younger days, meaning that I was really living from unprocessed stuff. There was a lot of infidelity and cheating in my relationships. Intimacy was very difficult for me. I wanted it. I genuinely craved it. And it was very challenging for me. The moment intimacy got real, the moment it got pulled out of fantasy, out of honeymoon period, and life got real, we started intermingling our lives. Conflict occurred more regularly, disagreements. I started seeing uncomfortable parts of them and vice versa. To me, that was like annihilation, just based on my upbringing. And so my coping strategy, which was maladaptive and unhealthy, was let me be with as many women as possible. Let me prove to myself that I have freedom, that there is space in my life. So it was variety and novelty. Instead of being honest and addressing what I needed to in those moments, I ran. I was scared. I was in shame. And I'm not making excuses. Really providing context to. I've been coaching and teaching people for 25 years, and so many men feel this. They don't know how to be with their big emotions. They don't know how to be with their shame. They don't know how to be with this fear that lives inside them. So they move to adrenaline-seeking activities, distractions, climbing the corporate ladder, making more money, having meaningless sex, and it just doesn't really go anywhere because you're not addressing the core thing that's living inside of you that relational dynamic is actually bringing out of you.
How did you start working with people and relationships?
It was just a natural evolution. So I've been doing this since I was 18. And meeting people where they were at, meeting with my own skill set at the time, and that just evolved. Relationships just became so important to me because growing up, my relationships were very dysfunctional. At least that was my perception. With my mother, with my father, with our family unit, there was a lot of violence and volatility, a lot of uncertainty, enmeshment, codependence with my mother. I'm the eldest of two boys. And I can break that down, what that means for your viewers if you like later. And there was just a lot of violence and approval seeking, violence from my father to all of us, and then approval seeking from me to my father. And that really shaped, I saw how he treated my mother and how they treated each other. And that shaped my idea of what relationship was. And so I craved intimacy and closeness. And I thought relationships are so important. There's got to be a better way. But at the same time, I feared them. I didn't understand why as an adult. It wasn't until I delved deeper into myself that I was able to really comprehend, my upbringing has really shaped so much of my values and my behaviors as an adult man. How I see myself, my sense of self-worth, how I treat others, how I treat women, how I be in relationship, and all the fear that I'm holding inside.
Mm-hmm. Wow. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, it's taken me years, and I'm still unpacking. Like I don't think we're finished products per se. We're constantly evolving. Right?
Yeah, it's true. What were you saying about you and your mom and being like enmeshed? Yeah,
so enmeshment, there's a few words for this. Enmeshment, entanglement, parentification, emotional incest. It's where a parent projects, usually unconsciously, their unmet emotional needs from their partner onto their child. It's like in my mum's case and my father wasn't meeting her emotional needs of safety and resonance and attachment and attunement and belonging and a sense of belongingness, because there was always, if not always, conflict. And my father was very volatile and reactive. And so her unmet needs as a human were projected onto me. The challenge with that is, as a little boy, I love that. Like, it's safe, mum's safer than dad. Like, I have to protect mum, because if something happens to mum, then I'm dead. Mm-hmm. That was my perception as a little boy, right? And so that feels good, but at the same time, it feels icky. And it's confusing for a boy. And so I bring that confusion into adulthood, meaning that I want intimacy and closeness, but the moment it actually is close, I associate it with, well, that's also unsafe. That's icky, because it's not just, not to be rude, but no one wants to fuck their mother. Yeah. No one wants to fuck their father, and vice versa, all things being equal, right? And so the moment that intimacy and closeness comes, I associate it with, that's also unhealthy and unsafe. Mm-hmm. And so I would push that away. Mm-hmm. So then I would engage, I would be angry, or I would cause arguments to create distance, so then I would feel safe. Mm-hmm. And that was just a pattern that would continuously play out. And for most of us in life, like, the greater the pain that we're experiencing internally, the greater the pleasure we require to mitigate the pain. So again, some people will go party and have cocaine and make lots of money. For me, it was women. That's what helped me feel safe.
Right. So interesting. Have you had these conversations with your parents since? Just because, like, you talk about this stuff openly?
I have.
Yeah.
I've had extensive conversations with my parents, still do.
Yeah.
My father's getting a lot older now.
Yeah.
And he's had some real health issues, but I've really, again, just to be completely transparent, I've made my peace with my father. I have some challenges with my mother still. Mm-hmm. Yeah. As a relational adult to my mother. And that's largely, I don't want to say because my daughter was born, but since my daughter was born, it changed things. Like, being a parent really changed. I mean, man, what a mirror. That's been tremendous. It is. I don't even know where to start with that.
No, tell me more, because I just had my second child, and
God bless you. Yeah.
I have a boy and a girl.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to hear, I was just actually having a similar conversation on another episode. It's like, we are all going to fuck up our kids in some way.
100%.
We just have to do it like a little bit less than our parents did it.
Preferably a lot less, but a little bit less is something.
Less.
Though.
Yeah.
A little bit less is something, yes.
Exactly.
Agreed.
Do you have one child or?
One.
Okay.
Yeah, you have just one, yeah.
What has having your daughter made you see that you hadn't seen before about yourself?
I'm not as great as I thought I was. It's a very humbling experience.
Why do you think that?
And I don't mean that to be self-deprecating, by the way, because I see so much of my parents' behavior in me to lower levels.
I see.
Not at the same intensity. So, for example, patience. I find myself, so my daughter's very much like me in her personality and her expression, and probably the way she sees the world. She's very right brain dominant, very emotionally centered. Can be emotionally dysregulated like me, is neurodivergent, has some neurodivergence like me. And so she stimulates all of these parts of me that I haven't fully integrated For the most part, yeah, sure. But there's still aspects of it that I haven't. And so being patient with her requires a lot of energy for me. I have to regulate my own nervous system,
Right.
wanting to be there for her, knowing, ignorance is bliss, right? Sometimes I wish I didn't, know what I know about human development, human brain, psychology, relationships, etc. But because I have an awareness of that, I want to do better, but it pushes up against my edges. It's more convenient for me to be reactive and say, fuck it, it's Friday, I'm out of here, right? But it's more challenging for me to breathe slow, be patient, really hear her. That's what I needed as a kid. I didn't get that.
Right.
Like not even from my mum, because it still came with conditions. So that enmeshment is very conditional. It's a lot of it's unconscious and very subtle, but it's conditional. I don't want to project that onto my daughter. And so it's really asking me to be a different version of myself, especially when, you live in New York. I gather you live in New York, right? It's a busy place. There's intensity here. There's a lot going on. I have a lot of moving parts in my own life, in our businesses and so forth, right? We have big dreams as a couple and as a family. And so I can get overwhelmed. And when I was overwhelmed as a kid, that wasn't really met very well because everyone else around me had their own challenges and own issues. With my daughter, I don't want to project that overwhelm on her. And it's not about not showing her, it's not about being perfect at all, but it's about regulating my nervous system and being okay with where I'm at and then being able to communicate that with her. But that requires a lot of energy. And when I have a lot going on, it's harder to access that. So when I said to you earlier around, I'm not as great as I think I am, not having a child, I was able to hide from myself in certain ways. Having a child, I don't think I can, which is beautiful, but also equally challenging.
What age of hers did you think that became more apparent? And I'm asking because my oldest is 2. So far I'm like, I'm feeling like, oh, I'm actually able to regulate. Like when he has a tantrum, I'm able to somehow be like, don't react because you didn't like that when you were growing up.
Yeah.
But I'm like, how long can I keep my cool? Is there an age where it like really comes out?
I think for me, it was probably about a year and a half ago that I started noticing more, but really from the beginning, just it's also the additional responsibility and again, coupled with knowing what I know.
Right.
And also wanting to be there for my wife and her experience. And after our child was born, there were just some challenges there where, we had some support, family support and so forth. And I thought, okay, my wife's good. I'll just step into this father role, but I didn't really attune to what my wife needed. And not that there's resentment, 3.5 years later that is still there. However, it set the precedent for the next few years. And so we've had to work through that. So that's been work as well. And often the vast majority of the time, I don't blow up in front of my daughter, but I carry that still. And so I'm learning how to express that in a healthy way as opposed to holding on to it and building up resentment like my parents did.
Right.
And because it's so familiar to me and so similar to what I experienced, it really pushes on some pain that's still there. And and as men, men aren't really taught how to grieve, how to feel their shame, how to be with their fears. Anger's acceptable, but everything else outside of that, not really. And so I'm learning how to be with myself in a new way.
Love it. So fascinating. I love learning about people. So I think your story is great. Online, you talk about polarity a lot, and I'm sure maybe in your book as well.
Yeah.
What do you think people are getting completely wrong about masculine and feminine energy in modern dating? I know that comes up a lot. Just, everyone has opinions on step into your feminine and all of that.
Yeah. Foundationally for me, masculine, feminine polarity and attraction dynamics and even retaining attraction is a byproduct of dealing with your shit. And so when you stop projecting your inner wounds, your unprocessed, unresolved stuff and patterns, unhealthy patterns in relationship, when you stop withholding, when you stop judging, when you stop resenting, you allow polarity to take place, like to really come into effect. You allow mystery to be present, spontaneity to be present. But when energetically and emotionally and relationally we're so busy wearing masks, contorting ourselves, manipulating in unconscious and sometimes conscious ways, there's no real space for attraction. And I'm talking about meaningful attraction that can be actually sustained, that feels safe, where you know each other, hear each other, you can be vulnerable with each other, you can be really open with each other. That kind of polarity takes place when you're both committed to seeking to understand each other, number one, and number two, committed to your own inner work. You're willing to go to uncomfortable places to not project shame, blame, be reactive. You're actually dealing with your stuff. And that's the foundation. From there, I mean, I was watching something the other day and I'm like, oh, I'm fucking tired of this masculine, feminine thing. I get tired of it too. I don't like to tell people, hey, be this and be that and do that. What I like to say is, if you love the life you live, keep living it. If there's a part of you though that knows you're hiding from yourself, look at that thing. Go to the places where you're running from. That is the building blocks and the foundations for the polarity that we seek in the world.
Yeah, that's really interesting. When it comes to dating, and I know we talked a little bit about like your childhood trauma and stuff like that, how can you tell the difference between if it's like a genuine attraction or you have like similar trauma kind of thing?
Yeah, like whether it's a trauma bond or it's a genuine attraction. Well, they can be both, by the way. There can be a genuine attraction there and there can be a trauma bond.
But is that a good thing? And by the way, can you define trauma bond? Because I talked about it once on the podcast and I got a million comments being like, you don't understand what a trauma bond is.
What did you explain what a trauma bond was?
I thought that it was like when you've both gone through a traumatic experience together. So you have that in common, like you bonded over the trauma that you went through. Yeah,
that can be a trauma bond, but I think the trauma bond you're speaking to is a little different. So yeah, I'll definitely can go into it. So maybe let's define a little bit about what trauma is. And so there's a few ways to define it. So one of the ways is trauma is often it's an intensity that's too much, too soon, too fast on the physiology, on the nervous system, and then how the psychology interprets, how our minds interpret that and what we make it mean compounds the effect of that. For example, like as kids, we're very self-referential, which means that we're about us. So we make the world mean like we're at the center of it. So if dad leaves, right, and that's a big rupture in the family unit, or mum leaves, whatever, dad leaves, shock. Intensity, too much, too soon, too fast, right? What that little kid may make that, what that 5-year-old may make that mean is that, oh, dad left because of me. Now that idea compounds over time and it affects someone's self-worth. So you can imagine as an adult, they may have abandonment issues. And so they may relate accordingly. They may relate from a very insecure attachment style, like an anxious, insecure attachment style, like, oh no, you can't leave. And so they latch on, they become desperate, they become needy. That can be repulsive, so to speak, or that can create distance for someone that's like, that's too much, like I'm not going to leave. Hey, calm, please relax, like I'm hurting here as well. And so, and then what happens is if that person is an avoidant attachment, as an example, they are experiencing neediness and desperation from that person, they then run, which activates their trauma because their trauma is being activated. So that's an example of a trauma bond.
I see. So it's like almost opposite traumas finding
Sometimes it's opposite, sometimes it's complementary. The trauma trains colliding. And again, trauma, we use that word, it's a familiar word, but I really like using the term intensities. Like how does the body and the mind experience a situation? And if it interprets as intense and something that it doesn't want to experience again, it will do everything it can to move away from that. And so that response of being insecure and desperate is a response to, I don't want to experience abandonment again. I don't want to experience the sense of loss and that grief again. I can't touch that. It feels too much. The difference is, as adults, we have greater capacity for empowerment. As children, we're quite disempowered. When you think about it, we exit the womb and we are very reliant on another human or humans to look after us for many years, right? So we're quite disempowered. And so all these things that happen to us and what we make them mean, and that compounds over years. But as adults, we still think we're disempowered because we're little regressed children walking around in adult bodies, but we're actually not. And so the transition, the journey is actually, how do we move from disempowered to empowered? Relationships are a beautiful vehicle for that. We don't just attract based on, hey, you're really attractive, you're good looking, hey, we share similar values, we like the same things. Well, those are important, but we also attract subconsciously from a place of, how can we help each other be more whole? How can we highlight each other's deficits or the things that we're avoiding within each other? And that's sort of that complementary wounding, if you like. That's a trauma bond, if you like.
I see.
We don't know that as adults. But if we knew that and we paused for a moment, we said, oh, you can make me better. I can make you better. We can be better together. And it may be uncomfortable for a while, but what if we were to be different to how we were? Because that's the transition. Like, I don't want to be desperate and needy as a kid. I don't want to be that now. You can help me by not running away, and I can help you by not being so desperate and needy. So we can have agreements here in how we be with each other. So it's a totally new way of being.
Right. But tell me if I'm off base. Like, I'm just thinking about my relationship, and like, I'm not as emotional, and my husband is pretty emotional. And so I feel like sometimes he's teaching me in a way how to be more emotional, and I'm teaching him how to be less emotional.
That's amazing. I often say this. The thing that our partner asks of us, inadvertently or directly, is often the thing that is not only just good for them, but really good for us. Like, would it, if you were just to be self-reflective, would it be useful for you? Would it be beautiful for you to tap into your emotional body just a little more?
Definitely.
Would it be useful for him to not be so emotionally dysregulated?
Definitely.
So you haven't just come together for lots of different reasons, have children because you share a beautiful life together, etc. But you've come together to help each other be more whole. That's masculine, feminine for me as well. But we're relational beings. That's the foundational premise for me, is we're relational beings.
Right.
So if we're relational beings, we actually need each other. And it's okay to need each other. There's this movement, we don't need anyone, self-love only. If you're needing someone, you're needy. No, there's unhealthy versions of neediness or needing someone, and there's healthy versions of needing each other. That to me is a healthy version, because you're bringing awareness to something that feels incomplete within you.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. When you work with people for relationship, teaching, is it usually men or women, or kind of like a mixture?
A mixture with couples as well.
What have you noticed the most about men? Because most of our listeners are single women, and they're pretty fed up.
What are they fed up with?
What I'm hearing is that the more successful and beautiful a woman is, the harder it is actually to find a partner.
So many men, we're not taught how to be with very big feelings, shame, grief, sadness. And so when we are confronted with something that we desire, someone that we desire, or an idea of what we desire, like a relationship, there's somewhere in us that knows we're not going to be able to maintain the honeymoon phase forever. So we're only going to be able to wear masks for so long. What happens when we actually get to a place where I have to show some grief, or I have to reveal some shame, or speak to my fears, or be more of a whole person? Most men don't want to go there, so they'll self-sabotage and they'll sabotage the relationship. And what most people do is what I touched on earlier about blaming, projecting, shaming others, resenting others, making excuses to be further away from intimacy. And something that we don't speak too often in this world is this mother wound. And it's not a formal diagnosis, the mother wound and the father wound, by any means. But it is a description of a childhood that impacts adult intimate relationships. And part of that mother wound is what I touched on earlier.
Yeah.
And part of it is as well believing that women aren't safe. I'm sure you hear this. Women will say men aren't safe. They're not emotionally safe. They're not really relationally safe. Most recently, there was a thing on social media where they were asking the question, would you rather spend a night in the woods with a bear?
Yeah.
And so many women, I think it was like 70-something% said a bear. And we can sort of laugh at that, but not really. There's there's deep stuff to that. And what we don't speak too often is this mother wound that boys grow up with turning into adults, into adult men, and how scared they are of women. And until that's actually addressed, women, no matter, because success is a different pathway to relationship. you can be as successful as you want in business. It doesn't mean you can be relational.
Mm-hmm.
You can be at amazing at leading teams and building businesses and forging partnerships, but that is very different to being vulnerable and real and the dissolving of your ego in real time moments, seeking to understand another person, to be all of yourself, like totally naked, emotionally, physically, relationally. They're very different pathways. And so what I see women do as well, is I do work a lot with women, is they will try and be more successful or more beautiful or better. But all that is the same pattern that they were brought up with, which is I need to prove my worth. I need to be performative. The only way I'm of value, and by the way, men share this as well, just in a different way. The only way I'm of value is if I succeed in this area. And there's just unmet needs that are attempting to be met, right? And it's this, well, if I only do this, then my father will love me. Or if I only do this, mum will actually not force her perfection on me and I'll be free. Until we deal with those core wounds, we just keep attracting the same kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm. But what about the problem of these amazing women not being able to even find like an option? What do you think that is about?
I don't know if that's completely true.
Yeah.
That's what I would say to that. I don't know if that's completely true.
Like you think that it's like a lower, like not lower your standards.
No, not at all. Don't lower your standards.
No, but be more open-minded to maybe what you haven't been looking for.
Open-minded and open-hearted, right? And so many people, men and women, set these ridiculously high, and this isn't about lowering standards, I want to be clear on that, but they set these ridiculously high standards for themselves and for what a relationship is. But what's underneath that is a very insidious aversion of intimacy. Because again, like if we get too close, then we're exposed and we're imperfect. And I see so many women grow up with this, I need to be perfect. I have to have everything in place, in right. I have to achieve so much, especially in the world that we live in. So that's a self-worth issue. That's a self-esteem issue. So when we deal with those issues, and this is same for men as well. We're not that dissimilar. It just shows up in slightly different ways.
Yeah.
But when we actually deal with those issues, it's not that our standards drop, it's that we notice more in our environment. And because we're not looking to someone else to save us or to be different so that we can be happy, we actually find that happiness within ourselves. The kind of relationships we attract change as well. Yeah. Because our disposition changes.
Yeah. I do believe that for sure. I definitely believe that. Tell me about your work with couples. What have you noticed that couples are struggling with? Let's say, married couples.
Unmet needs, unspoken resentments. There's very little space for couples. So many couples are in survival mode, whether it's because of children, not because of, but you know what I mean? Like the overall pressures of life, working multiple jobs, having children, having such responsibilities that they don't prioritize themselves. And so when something like a conflict happens, instead of addressing it, they just let it go because it's too much on an already full plate.
Right.
But they keep letting it go and letting it go. And every day or every week, there's one little thing that adds up and it stacks up. And that also displaces polarity because you don't want to have sex with someone or be physically intimate with someone or close to someone or open to them when you essentially are holding resentments and judgments and withholds.
Right.
Right. And that's not attractive. It's hard to be attracted to that. And so that's one of the biggest issues that couples don't make time to actually say, here's my withhold, here's my judgment, here's the story I'm telling myself about you or about us, and here's what my experience is. They don't use tools like nonviolent communication or imago dialogue that are really effective communication tools where people can be listened to and reflected back to and heard and empathized with. That's all that people want. We just want to be heard and understood. And often that's the fix. That's all that's needed, but we don't make time for that. And so these resentments stack up and it causes a lot of distance and friction in a relationship.
I do think that's true. I went to lunch with a girlfriend the other day and she was like, most of my friends hate their husbands.
Oh, it's so sad.
And I was like, why? Like, what are the reasons? And she was like, I don't know. Like, they're all different. And I was like, is it A, they're not, how, because these are all people with like young kids like myself. I'm like, is it A, they're feeling like the husband isn't doing anything, like pulling his weight when it comes to like helping with the kids? Is it B, the wife, like your friend, you know, isn't feeling heard by, or like isn't just like getting attention from the husband? Or is it C, like there's a financial situation where like maybe the woman feels like the man isn't like being a provider in that way, whatever. And she said it's mostly A and B. And it's interesting because I feel like this is way more common than we realize when your kids are young. There's a big period of just like, I don't know, right, how serious the hate is. It could just be like, he's annoying, you know? But I think a lot of couples go through it where they're just like, yeah, I'm just not going to like vibe with my husband right now, but like the we're just going to raise our kids and like then we can focus again on us.
It's a big risk.
Yeah.
Running a big risk. Like there's a lot of years of distance there.
Right.
Where you don't know each other and you don't know yourself through the other as well. You're not building. See, one of the I think the points of relationship is for the other person to change you, literally change you, in the ways that you want to be changed, in the ways that you want to evolve into. And if you have that much emotional and relational distance, that doesn't occur. So you're not left with anything. Hence why so many kids leave for college or they become adults and they leave the home.
Right.
And the parents are just sort of left there.
Yeah.
They get divorced or they're just left there with not knowing how to be with each other. Hence they get divorced.
Yeah. I feel like what's a good way to combat that? Maybe, so for example, with my husband and I, when we come home at the end of the day, we're exhausted, like exhausted. Especially, you know, on the weekends when it's just us with the kids. And at the end of the day, both of us just want to zone out and go to bed. And I think that is very common when you're raising young kids. Yeah. We are going on a trip, the two of us coming up. And like, I can't explain to you.
Yourself.
What?
You'd be beside yourself.
Literally. Like, I can't explain to you how much we need that because we won't be so stressed from the day and we'll actually be able to connect. So that is, I guess, one way. But what's another way to connect with your partner when you're just so exhausted? You know?
Just to relate with you on that,
I
can't tell you how fucking excited I get for Saturday afternoons for Christine and I to hit the beach, go get some food. Like it's a few hours, it's nothing.
Yeah.
We have someone look after our baby girl, Athena. I love it. It is. We walk on the beach. We talk.
You're like, oh my God, I really like this person.
I actually like you. Like this is fun. We get in our golf cart. We go drive down the beach. We walk on the beach. I go jump in the ocean. The simplicity of that is everything. That's my point. Like this is the foundation. Like there are various components to the foundation. The simplicity of that kind of connection is really important. It doesn't have to be. We live in a world where, especially here in New York. And not to bag New York, I love New York, but it's very bright and busy and everything's coming at you and it's the next best thing and get the next best thing. And we're constantly focused on that where the simplicity of just connecting goes a very long way.
It really does. And it's like, you know, there are haters out there who are like, you should be spending every second with your kids. You're not going to bring your kids on vacation or you're going to have help for a couple hours on a Saturday. And it's like, this is so good for my kids. You have no idea.
Well, when my daughter's very intuitive and kids full stop are very intuitive in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right. When Christine and I are connected, Athena's behavior and disposition is different.
Right.
She changes completely. She's more regulated and calm. She's more curious. She has less tantrums or emotional dysregulation. She loves us being together, loves all three of us being together. And she loves when mummy and daddy are just connected and loving. So something that I grew up with was watching my parents in such disharmony, and that wasn't healthy for me at all. So parents being connected is important, especially in this siloed world that we live in. We don't live in villages anymore where we're all raising a child together or children together. For most of us, we don't, you know, and that's part of the cultural construct that we live in. But to go back to your question around what are some helpful tools? So spontaneity and mystery is very important in a relationship. Novelty and variety is very important in a relationship. I spent many years seeking novelty and variety outside of my relationships. I do my best to create it in the relationship now. So what is the foundation for all of this is effort. You have a podcast, you have a business. I'm sure there are multiple arms to your business. Do you put effort into your business?
Of course.
Do you place attention and intention into your business?
Yeah.
Do you do the same for your children, raising your children in the way that you want to raise them? A relationship is no different.
Right.
Right. And that's the thing that often inspires us deeply as well. I'm not saying that you or your husband weren't in your own careers prior to being together, but you amplify each other. I'm sure that's why you're part of why you're together. I'm with my wife for lots of reasons. And one of them is because I seek her counsel. What can you see that I can't? I'm having trouble right now. This pattern keeps repeating in my life. I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. I'm not making the connection of how to shift and change this. What can you see? But that level of trust is built on transparency.
Yeah.
So a really simple tool that I like to have is, what are your judgments? What are your withholds? What are your projections? What are your stories? And make a time. If you have to schedule this, schedule it. If you don't want to schedule it, have an agreement where you can come to each other with something, a judgment, a withhold, a projection, a story that you want to share, and that your partner, the agreement is that I'm going to listen.
Right.
I'm going to attune to you. I'm going to reflect back what you're saying. What I hear you say is ... Is that accurate? Yes. Is there more? Yes. Please continue. And just having that agreement, or you can do that every month. Hey, any withholds? Any judgments that you have of me, of us? Or clear the air often so that you're not holding on to the heaviness and the baggage of that anger that you may have, or that animosity that you may have. And that spaciousness that you then feel in your relationship, it lends itself to more mystery. It lends itself to spontaneous sex. It lends itself to attraction. Lends itself to connection. It's not that complex, but we struggle to be with ourselves, and we struggle to actually be vulnerable and be real because we're scared that, oh, maybe they'll reject that, or maybe it will cause more argument. Maybe it will cause more distance. We have to get beyond that.
I agree.
That's maturity though, right?
It's true. Yeah. What is, like, if you're working with a couple, what is something that would make you think like this relationship is done?
Simple, unwillingness. It's not that complex.
Yeah.
If one or both are really unwilling to look at their stuff, to get uncomfortable, to seek to understand the other, to really want to listen, to want to make some change, then it's just, of course, it's impossible. It's like the gold medal, the athlete that wants a gold medal, the 100-meter sprint, but doesn't want to do the training for it.
Right. But can't you have willingness and still it could be
you absolutely can.
Yeah,
for sure. But that's foundational. Right? So if you lack willingness, and some people do though, because they're so stubborn or they're so caught up in their own defensive survival patterns, they will not concede. They will not look at themselves. They will not be willing to actually empathize with the other. That's another thing. Like, so many couples lack compassion and empathy for themselves and for each other. You cannot connect and relate to someone from that place. It's virtually impossible. So if that foundation isn't there, nothing else has the potential for growth. But yes, you're right. Couples can be really willing, but then they're unable. And maybe they've just met each other at, so that old conversation of, can you meet the right person at the wrong time? My belief is it's not the right person if it's the wrong time.
I agree. I could not agree more. Yeah. Have you ever been wrong? Like, has a belief that you've had about relationships ever changed?
Yeah, I'm wrong a lot.
Yeah. Give us an example.
Well, I thought, I'll give you two that come to mind immediately, that a relationship that has conflict is not the right relationship. Right? So anytime there's that, because I grew up in so much conflict, like I pushed that shit away so far that any affliction, subtle conflict means, wrong relationship, not for me, move on. Convenient excuse, right? To not address that core stuff. That's one. That the honeymoon period must be forever. And if it's not,
hilarious.
And if it's not, well, this is the wrong relationship.
But I will say it should be long. It should be like at least a year, in my opinion.
Ours wasn't that long. Oh, maybe it was.
No, it probably was.
Probably was.
It probably,
even a little bit
but
longer.
I guess, and obviously, like, it varies. But in relationships in the past, I wouldn't see it as a red flag if my honeymoon phase lasted like 3 months.
No.
And that's, but I think that's crazy because I think that is a red flag. Like
your honeymoon. Red flag.
Yes. Your honeymoon
phase lasts 3 months.
Yes.
I think every individual is different.
It should be long. Like it's still so novel then. You're still getting to know each other.
But yes, and it depends. There's so much nuance to that though. I get what you're saying. I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I'm going to give you another perspective, right? Whenever we should anything, we're coming from a perspective of our own values.
Mm-hmm.
And your experience with your husband, for example, may have been at least a year and a half, but that's your individual circumstances. Like
right.
Statistically speaking, most honeymoon periods last anywhere from like 3 to 7 months. Like that's the majority of honeymoon periods.
Interesting.
It's where that chemical reaction starts to die down, where you start intertwining your lives in a different way.
Yeah.
So it's not that look, ideally, would a honeymoon period last a little longer? Great. But that novelty and variety can be created in new ways.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the challenge that we have, I think, as a society and as couples is that because we place these expectations on the honeymoon period, as an example, being a certain period of time, and if it's not, then something's wrong. We're not in acceptance of the phases of relationship. And the phases of relationship, naturally after the honeymoon period, more of you is revealed. So you're going to go through like what's called a contracted period where you're thinking, oh, well, she didn't do that when we first met. Why is she doing it now? Why is she wasn't upset with me with the way I was snoring before. Why is she upset with me now that I'm snoring, Or I noticed why is he spending so much time with his friends now? Like what's happening there? He wasn't spending that much time when we were first together. And so this is great because now you're coming to your edges. So conflict is here. When we embrace conflict as a natural rhythm of relationship and we have agreements and maturity in how to be in that conflict, in other words, choosing to listen to each other, to empathize, to ask questions, to speak our needs and speak our truth and voice, not contort ourselves and acquiesce and so forth, but to be really honest and foundation of truth and relationship, we move beyond the conflict quicker and faster. Well, guess what happens when that happens? Now there's more space for novelty and variety again in the relationship, more mystery, more spontaneity. So you can have these natural evolutions of honeymoon period over a 50-year period in relationship. I met a gentleman late last year. He's 70-something, 75. He's been married for 40-something years. He had a number of different types of cancers. He's an endurance athlete, by the way. So he runs hundreds of kilometers or hundreds of miles, if you like, 100, 200 miles for cancer and so forth. But one of the cancers he had was testicular cancer. So I mentioned that it's relative, right? Because he says to me, Steph, and he experienced sexual abuse growing up. He said, man, I'm having the best sex of my life. The best. I love my wife so much. It is amazing. And viscerally, when you hear him speak, I mean, he had to be there. He's either a pathological liar or he is into his wife in their 70s. She's the same age, 74, whatever. So you have these ebbs and flows.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the ebbs and flows for sure. Yeah. For sure.
But everyone's different because everyone comes with their own historical context of how to relate. Some honeymoon periods are shorter than others. The thing that most people miss is that they leave too early a relationship. And how do I define that? I define that by you haven't learned anything. Right. You haven't grown. You're taking the same patterns and the same shit into the next relationship. You've left too early because relationships are teachers. They're mirrors. They're big spotlights to say, hey, that dark thing you're not looking at within you, you should look at it. And I'm going to be here with you looking at it. I'm not going to judge you for it. I'm not going to shame you. I'm going to be here. And that person may not trust that, but if they can just soften to that with structure still in their body, right? If they can soften to that, that opens up a whole new door of intimacy, which lends itself to spontaneity and attraction.
Totally. I love that. Okay. I have one more and then I'm going to ask you the question we always end on, but what's one thing someone can change this week that would immediately improve their dating life?
Got so many things I want to say. I'm trying to choose one. If you knew me, you'd know that when you say, give me 3 things, I want to give you 5. And when you say, give me 1, I want to give you 7 or 2. Well, Well, the first thing that came to me was how we look at ourselves, literally how we look at ourselves in the mirror, and the judgments and the shame that often carries with the way that we look at ourselves. So like, oh, I'm not tall enough, or I'm not slim enough, or my genitalia is a particular way, or whatever, like real things that we just don't like about ourselves, and that we're secretly hoping by dating someone, they'll love it about us so that we can love it about ourselves. Now, I want to just say there's nothing intrinsically wrong with that. That's part of relationship, actually, for that person to say, I love this part of you. I love the way your nipple is bigger on one side and not on the other or whatever. And you're like, oh, I hate that. Well, I love it. And so you can come into deeper coherence with yourself, right? However, the painful thing is that when we carry low self-worth, we project that into the relationship. And so the types of people that we attract reinforce that low self-worth within us. So there has to be this dance between, I actually see myself as a full being. I don't need someone, but I want someone. And I want to come into dating and I want to come into a relationship feeling more whole and more confident and more worthy of myself, because you will attract a different caliber of relationship. You'll be met in a different way.
I definitely agree with that. What's a quote or piece of advice that you could leave us with? And maybe it's from your book, which we're going to get to.
Relationships don't have to be that hard. You asked me earlier around what's another truth that got busted for or what is another idea. Like, I thought relationships, again, paradoxically, right? I said if there's conflict, that's not a good relationship. But paradoxically, I believe relationships had to be hard because that's all I knew. It's all I knew around my environment, in my community, my friends that were also of similar ethnicity to me, Italians and Croatians and Greek. They had very similar upbringings. And they were all very difficult relationships. I thought, relationships are just difficult. They have to be difficult. That's what you do. You just suffer in relationship. So relationships don't have to be that hard. And again, I believe, take this for what it's worth, but the primary reason for being in a relationship is to better yourself, is to become the person you envision yourself to be consciously and or unconsciously. So they're tremendous vehicles for growth. And so just embrace the difficulty that comes in relationship. It can actually be a really healthy thing. Conflict is healthy. It's not unnatural. It's not unhealthy. It's how we do conflict that is tough. So that challenges us and doesn't help us grow.
Yeah, like how we recover from it.
Yeah, and how we repair. Yeah, essentially repair. Like repair's a massive component of relationship that we really ignore, and we stuff it down inside, and that builds resentment, and then we end up breaking up, and we're like, oh, relationships are hard. No, relationships aren't hard. It's our unwillingness to repair. It's our unwillingness to allow ease and grace into a relationship, to learn from that person, to really listen to each other. When that person says, hey, that thing you said hurt me, and instead of being really defensive and trying to protect one's ego, saying, oh, I can see how that hurt you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going to do better.
Yeah, it's important. Where can everyone find you and your book, if you want to tell them a little bit about it?
Very much. Is my book. You can find the book, Audible. It's in I recorded it, and there's a stack of bonuses on the Audible, because when I was reading it, I'd finished the book like a year early, and then I read it a year later. And I'm like, oh no, I've got to add this, I have to add that. There's so much I've learned in the last year. So Audible has a stack more information, but you can get it at tunedinandturnedonbook.com, and there are a stack of other bonuses that come with that as well. And you can find me on social media at Stefanos Sifandos.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Steph.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
That was amazing.
Thank you. Thanks, Lindsay. Oh, it's been delayed. It may be been delayed.